Hello everyone, welcome to another Joseki video on the 2-5 invasion. In this video, let's talk about Black's response at the 3-5 point, the triangle, and a small circle here, this kind of a capping move. So in the previous video, we covered A and B, right? These two responses, both A and B, try to preserve the corner. And I'm really happy to see that the previous video got more views than most other Joseki videos. And I think that's a smart thing to do, for you to spend some time on these Joseki videos, because it saves you a lot of time and worries, right? If you're not familiar with this Joseki, which is very, very common these days. Why? Because from beginners to professional players, right? Of course, that includes anybody in between. Everyone's playing the small knight's enclosure, and you have to know the best local move to approach the corner or to invade the corner, right? Someone said it should be the 2-5 approach, which also works. I think the term, at least in Chinese, has a little bit of both. It's both an invasion and an approach, right? Approach is kind of trying to get to one side, right? Invasion is like trying to get to the corner, taking the corner. And with number 1 here, depending on how Black responds, White can do either of those, right? Either taking the corner territory or move to the upper side, building a base on the upper side. So we're here to figure out what White can accomplish and how Black can respond. So if you haven't checked out the previous video on this playlist, please do, because these two moves are very, very important and fundamental, I would say, especially for beginners and queue players, because most of you would want to preserve your corner territory, and exchanging the territory for influence is slightly more advanced, but of course it is still worth knowing what can happen. So let's start with this diagonal move. And White's response in this situation, 99% of the time, you have to try to move into the corner, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to back out, because now Black can get to this position. It's a pretty nice position, right? This would be the equivalent of Black playing here and White playing an extension, right? Number 3 here would be a bad move. It's very slow, and allowing Black to get into this relatively solid position, right? So extending on the outside is a little too slow, I would say, because Black will get sente in the situation, and the corner, the shape, is very good. So I don't think White can be satisfied by playing at number 3. Similarly, this will not work. Again, Black will just play the hane here at number 4. Of course, if you connect here, then this is just inviting a pincer, an attack, right? So the best way for White to proceed is actually this Atari, which is in itself a bad move, right? Because you're really solidifying Black's territory here. And again, you have 2 cutting points on the outside. So under most circumstances, you do not play on the outside. You have to come closer to the corner at the 2-4 point. And now Black seems to have a choice, but you really don't, because you started with number 2. And by playing number 2 means you're willing to give up the corner territory. If you're not willing to give up the corner territory, then check out the previous video, play this attachment or this extension, right? So if you play here now, White will play this hane, right? White will most likely not play this exchange with Black. This way, White will all be on the second line. So White cannot be satisfied by pushing here. So White will get on the 3rd line here. And if Black is really behind in the game, locally you have to play the pincer. So this is a pretty harsh move, right? This is going on the offensive, not giving White the corner territory. And White doesn't seem to have a whole lot of eye space, right? And this is something that both sides can do, but of course White can escape. black has a shape here and a pincering stone, right, at number 6. So this is one possible variation that will lead to a fight. Right? And can black try something like this? Actually, no. This will hurt number 6. And there will be more eye space on the upper side here. So I think number 7, this is the correct response to the pincer. You don't really need to be afraid as white in this situation. And I think this is playable for both sides, right? You at least have one real eye, right? This is, right, at least one real eye here, and you can escape toward the center. So it shouldn't be a huge worry, but it is something that black can do to take away the corner. And note that playing on top here is probably not the best for black, right? Not the best shape for black, but it's also okay for black to play on top. But the thing is, we're going to see a lot of variations in this video. The thing is, you have to compare this with the other variations that are in black's control that can give black a wall. And this is not the best, right? This is not the best. And any other move, this is even better, right? This is better. This is a better wall than the pattern we just saw, right? And that is why this is a Joseki, and the pattern we just saw is not really a Joseki that favors black. So a better move is to play on the upper side here and give white the corner. And number 4 is the optimal local move here. So why not this hane or this extension, right? Both of these moves exist as well. And the differences are really subtle. So you don't have to stress too much about the differences of or which one is better, or the best. Of course, you can remember this, but the differences are not huge, though they will lead to different variations. So let's look at this first. I think how you can understand this is that when white plays anything else on the upper side, there's no one move that can connect number 1 with number 5, right? Just play elsewhere, right? There's just no move that can connect these two moves. The best white can do is probably this, push and cut. This will start a fight depending on the circumstances. But there's no one simple move that can connect 1 and 5. But if you play here, then there'll be all kinds of moves that can connect white to the corner. So I think that's why number 4 is a good move, is a good capping move, right? White cannot escape and cannot easily connect to anything on the upper side. And of course, white will have to take the corner at the 3-3 point right here. And that's it. This is a Joseki, right? So black has prevented white from connecting on the outside, right? Especially with these two stones. When they're in place, and when you have a stone on the left side, it's also impossible to connect with number 5 by a single move, right? So black has enclosed white, but white is also living quite comfortably here in the corner, right? This move is not in sente, right? This is not threatening to kill white if you just block here. That's why black should take sente, because this is not threatening, not doing much. Is this in sente? It actually is, right? Again, this is where life and death kind of comes into play in these types of situations, right? So this is not enough eye space. And depending on what's outside, if there are no reinforcement, then locally white is dead. So if black plays here, then white will need to extend a little bit, extend its own eye space. Now white is alive, and there'll be a cutting point on the outside. So this is a weakness in black's shape. But I think black should be happy to just leave it here, right? Because if you play this sequence, then black is in gote, white has sente all of a sudden. So I think, especially in the beginning, when the board is still relatively empty, black should definitely play elsewhere. So this is the first Joseki after number 2, relatively peaceful. But of course, there's another move that white can consider, and that is this attachment. And the problem with this attachment, right, is that black can actually play the honey here and play this exchange. All of a sudden, white no longer has the corner, and white will have to capture on the outside. But of course, white breaks out from black's wall. And that means if you played number 1, not intending black to have a wall on the outside, this is something you can try as white, right? Playing number 5 and hoping that black will make this exchange. The problem for white is that white is not completely alive. You do have some kind of a panuki, right? But black can stand down here. And this is not a real eye yet, right? And you can't really find a real eye here, right? Technically speaking, this is also not a real eye. So white really only has half a real eye. And you really have to escape toward the center, right? Something like this. And of course, if black doesn't want its wall on the outside to be breached, then black can just play something like this extension, right? This is a peaceful way to resolve this, or something like this. So it's not going to make a huge difference, but of course if you play it here, then you're giving white the option of making the exchange. So it might be something like this, or this, or this. So that's number 4 right here. This is very similar. Again, white will have to take the corner at the 3-3 point, and black again can take center. But the problem for black, right, is that number 4 right here is not as good. It's not as good a capping move as the jump, because the corner can easily connect with any other white stones on the upper side. What about this hane, right? This seems like the harshest move, right? It's really making these 2 white stones' liberties shorter. So what white should do is to cut immediately, because of course number 4 is the more vulnerable stone here on the second line. If black extends here, now white can get to play this attachment. Now black can only play on the outside, right? Something like this. Black cannot make this trade because white is in center here, and it will be able to kill these 2 black stones, or make them crawl on the second line. So black can only play on the outside, and white can just play the Atari and make a living shape. What's the life and death situation on the corner? Right? Black should try this move. It seems like white will be able to make a living shape. Right? It will be something like this. But of course, these are all very big co-threats for black. But white should be alive. So black can add a move outside. And this is playable for both sides. Slightly better for white, because AI does not like number 4 that much. But I think this is definitely playable for both sides. Right? It's just that white has sente. I think that's the main reason why AI prefers to be white in this situation. Because AI cares a lot about having sente. But I think the wall itself is pretty good for black after number 12. And the corner shape is also not bad for white. Pretty good for white. So I think that's one way to do it. Another way is for number 8 to extend here. So this is already an ugly shape for black on the outside, these 4 stones together. And white can either play this. Of course, black probably needs another stone here. This is also slightly better for white, but of course, I understand if you like black's wall on the outside, very solid. Or white has this move as well. It's a very interesting move. Of course, this cutting point cannot be ignored, right? This cut, there's going to be trouble, right? When you see something like this, black is just too short on liberties. So this is not okay for black. Black will have to address the cutting point. And even this, playing this hane and connect in gote is recommended at the beginning of the game for white. Because, once again, the corner territory is huge, and black still owes a move here to take care of number 5, but there are other moves that white can make on the outside. So this again slightly favors white according to AI. So these are the choices, I think, after number 5. This will get slightly more complicated, but I think the ideas are very similar. Right? The ideas will be very similar here. Just that black is trying to make white slightly heavier, and maybe hoping that white will escape here, so black can start attacking white. Right? So I think that's the idea. But the corners shape will be very similar. So that's number 4, this Hane. And I think I've covered everything after number 2, which is a little complicated, some of the variations. You don't have to remember every single move and every single variation, but you have to get the idea, right? It's just exchanging the corner territory for a wall on the outside. And that's what number 2 is intending to do. Next, we can talk about number 2 right here at the 3-6 point. It's kind of a shoulder hit against number 1. We can call this a small nice move or kind of a capping move, right? This makes it even harder for number 1 to come out. But can number 1 come out to the upper side? Actually, it can. So one way to play number 2 is actually hoping that white plays at number 3, which is the locally optimal move for white. Right? You might be thinking this is optimal or something like this. All 3 are okay, right? 1, 2, and 3. All of these moves are okay for white, but this is the best move according to AI. Again, you can disagree. And after this exchange, black actually has the option of sealing off the corner again. And now what happens is that white will come out. And this is the equivalent, right, of this. Playing this exchange first and having black play this exchange later. What's the difference? The difference is that if we're in this sequence, then number 4 is not that forcing because you're only threatening to capture this one stone. And that's like 5 points, right? It's not that big. But if you play this exchange first, right, now white cannot give up this stone after playing the 2-5 invasion. It has to follow up, right? So it makes white a little heavier. I think that's the only thing it does. And the difference here is very subtle. I think the differences here are very, very subtle. So, especially for amateur players, black is intending to make white a little heavier, but the eye space is more robust right after this exchange for white. Now, arguably, the shape, right, is heavier. So, really depends on your preference here. So, if white crawls here, then it is okay for black to seal off the corner again by playing this extension. White can also push here. Now, black will have to block, and this Atari is forcing locally. Black must connect. Right? Black cannot afford to let go of this stone. Then this Panuki is very solid. Very, very solid. So black must connect. White most likely will get to play this, right? Still threatening to come into the corner. You still have this clamping move that we talked about in the previous video that has Aji. So most likely black will still have to connect here. And now white finishes the shape with this one space extension on the outside. And this is playable for both sides. So we're kind of going back, right, to the previous video where white is beating a base on the upper side and black is taking the corner. And that's what can happen, actually, due to these various sequences. What if black plays on the outside? Now this is simpler, right? White can just take the corner at the 3-3 point. Black will most likely have to follow up here, right? You cannot take Sente yet. If you play elsewhere, then number 7 is a really good shape. This is a very, very efficient and very nice way for white to take over the corner, right? So this is not great for black. Black will add a move. This is also forcing, right? Otherwise, you can take back the corner. There will be no ice space for white. So white owes a move here, either this, very good for ice space, or this, right? Slightly worse for the end game here. But white is looking to break out with this hane, right? Sometime down the line, when the opportunity is ripe, white is going to want to hane here and break out and start a fight. So this is really white's choice. This is better for the end game, but you do not have any hane or you cannot cut black in half. So white has a choice here. These two moves are about the same. Again, very simple, right? Black taking the outside, white takes the corner. And that's number 3, right? Black can either seal off the corner or play on the outside. What about some of these other moves? What about taking the corner directly? Again, black must answer here, right? Black must answer here. You cannot really play on the outside for some reason, because once again, 3 and 5, this is just a better shape, I think. I think that'll be the explanation here. That it's just a better shape than some of the other ways that white can take the corner. So if you, right, so after number 4, number 5, number 6, right, if you extend here, now white can push. And eventually there will be a push and cut, and the corner is already alive for white. So white doesn't have to worry about it. Eventually there's going to be a push and cut, and that's going to be a headache for black, right? This cutting stone is very hard to attack. It's very hard to attack. So that is why black must play here, right? These are the things you need to remember, like the basics, like what you must do, right? This is a must. Number 4 is a must after number 3. And now once again, black has this choice, which will just go back to the pattern we just saw earlier. Or white can try something like this. But again, this is giving black the choice of pushing here and cutting this off. And we'll go back to one of the previous patterns where white beats a base and black takes the corner, right? So these are all very similar sequences. Just need to work through them, right? This one, of course, can black take number 3 right now? I think so, right? Again, this will just go back. Sequences are a little different, but the result is the same. And that's number 3, right? It has to be followed by number 4 and can result in white taking the corner or white building a base on the upper side. Lastly, let's talk about this. This push, this is forcing. Black must block here. And once again, this is going to be quite similar, right? The two sides can exchange this way, and we'll go back. Or white can play this bend on the second line, and black can take the corner this way, guarding the corner this way. And once again, we have white building a base and black taking territory. So I guess it's not all black exchanging the territory for a wall. That's kind of a false advertising, sorry about that, but there are various ways for both sides to exchange and to settle the shape, right? So I think that's the main thing. And these are the main variations. Most of these are playable for both sides, unless I point out, right? If the wall has a cutting point that's bad for black, or if the corner shape is not great for white. Otherwise, it's definitely playable for both sides. And these are the variations that you should be aware of. And once you're familiar with these variations, it saves you a lot of unnecessary worry and concern when you're playing these moves. Because if you're playing this move blind, right? If you only know the 2-5 invasion, and you play this, and when your opponent responds and you don't know how to follow up, that's going to be not very fun for you. So the purpose of these videos, once again, is to familiarize you with all these potential variations and to prepare you better for the games that you play. After this video, we'll talk about some of these other ways to approach or invade the corner enclosure. We'll talk about the 2-4 invasion or approach. We'll talk about this attachment, which is not recommended, but it does work under some circumstances, and this approach. So there are a couple more moves to go. Please stay tuned. Thank you for watching.